Chapter 21, Blackbeard, Armada, Gemini Graveyard. Commodore Blackbeard stood above the navigator looking at his screen. Well, have they seen us? Blackbeard, I'm not sure. They were investigating different derelicts and then all of a sudden they stopped and turned home. It could be they got called back to the station or maybe they gave up searching. They already looked at a number of ships, Navigator Chung said, trying to sound confident. It was usually best not to take a position either way with Blackbeard. If your position turned out to be wrong, it could mean a quick death out the airlock. I need an answer. Aye or nay? Blackbeard ordered. Chung thought about it. If he said aye, then they would attack early, which wasn't a big deal as they would attack anyway in a few hours. If he said nay, and the shuttle saw them and put in a warning to the space station, they would lose their element of surprise. Better to attack early, even if their shuttle hadn't seen them. So Chung said, aye! Then send a message to the rest of the Armada. We attack now. Even if the station has been informed, it will take them time to figure out what is going on and make any preparations. They won't believe this small shuttle without further proof, and that will give us the time we need to board them. As soon as the fleet confirms my orders, block all further communications from Gemini. It is time to go black and destroy that shuttle. Blackbeard ordered this with all the vigor of a pirate ready to attack. Chapter 22, Graveyard outside of Gemini. Cooper was making the maneuvers to get them home. However, the Blackbeard Armada wouldn't realize that they had been spotted. They needed to get back to Gemini and alert Bolts. At this range, they couldn't reach him directly with their radio system. Anne was continuing to go through screens, gathering data. It was then that Cooper felt a vibration in his pocket. Strange, he thought. That is my card from Ryder. Keeping one hand on the wheel, he unzipped the small pouch in his space suit and pulled out the card. There was one message waiting. He put in the password, which was Sarah, his mom's name, and the text appeared and scrolled across the screen. It read, Cooper, attack on Gemini from Blackbeard imminent. EOA has infiltrated the military. Trust no one but Bolts with this information. Anne, you need to read this, Cooper said, handing her the card. She read it while Cooper explained that it was a private card to contact Ryder. We need to see my grandfather right now. I will try to reach him to meet us at the airlock. She reached down and tried to set up communication, but nothing worked. Then she noticed something else on the screen. Cooper, we have a problem. She looked up and met Cooper's eyes, just as the alarms began blaring all over the control panel. Incoming missiles! Take evasive action now! Chapter 23, Outside of the Moon. Tracker, status report, Ryder ordered, sitting behind him on the bridge. Ryder, we are minutes out from the moon. The attack already started. My trajectory will take us close to the attacking force. We can surprise them from above with a few shots, but we are coming in so fast. We will have to orbit the moon once to slow down before we can land or attack from above. Understood, he hit the intercom. Beccario and Jewel, be ready on weapons. Shoot at any of the enemy ships you can find, and make sure not to destroy the dome in the process. Yes, sir, the two chimed in. Ryder, I have something else that is interesting. What is it, Tracker? Ryder said, leaning in a little. Remember when we left Earth, 2 military ships were leaving from low Earth space stations. Well, at the time, I thought they were trying to stop us, but their courses have changed. One of them is coming in behind us, but not right at us. The other one is headed on a trajectory toward Gemini. That seems logical. They are probably the representatives from the EOA who plan on destroying the bases after the pirates take charge. Yes, but the one thing we didn't know is how they were planning on doing this without letting the pirates know the plan was to destroy the stations. Because once the pirates know, they will try to stop the EOA. The pirates don't want to die. They just want to control the bases. What are you getting at, Tracker? Ryder asked, waiting for him to conclude. Well, Ryder, the pattern from those ships. At first, I thought it was just the nuclear power signature, but it's different. I am pretty sure that ship behind us is carrying a nuclear bomb. Ryder got to his feet and looked at the screen Tracker was examining. Are you saying that the EOA is planning on detonating a nuclear bomb in Armstrong Moon Base? Yes, sir, that is exactly what I'm saying. My God, Ryder sat down. sat back down. Of course, this was why Sebastian was so convinced that he would succeed. But how did he get his hands on nuclear bombs? After the riots, mankind accepted the fact that nuclear-powered ships were the way to go. But this was much different than the power of a nuclear bomb. Not only would it create a huge explosion that would destroy the base, but it would also render the buildings and maybe the tunnels radioactive for years to come. This would virtually end the station's use forever. But if it was on the ship headed to Armstrong, Ryder thought, what about Gemini? Tracker, can you find the same signature on the second ship headed to Gemini? Even before he asked, he knew the answer. Yes, Ryder, I am sorry, but it has the same signature. How is this possible? Ryder said out loud. Sir, I think I know. Bites chimed in from his seat at the back of the bridge, where he looked up briefly from his device. Bites, what have you got? Sir, before the riots and everything changed, there was a nuclear production facility in Aiken, South Carolina, Bites said, reading from the device. Okay, how is that significant? Sir, the facility is less than a 3-hour drive from Atlanta. All the pieces were falling into place. Using nuclear bombs changed everything. Ryan and Sebastian's confidence in their success now made sense. And if they had an electromagnetic bomb on the ship as well, they could destroy all the electronics. This would end the space program. Well, said Ryder, we will have to hope that we can take out the pirates in time to stop the bomb. I'm assuming they will try to land in the terminal and then detonate from there. Our goal must be to take charge of the station and stop the pirates first, Tracker said. Well, that time is upon us. We will be in firing range in just 5 minutes. Chapter 24, Armstrong Moon Base. Sergeant White, this is House. We are in position, Drill Sergeant House said. He was crouched behind a supply ship's leg, facing the exit airlock to the solar arrays. Good, House. They should be coming through the doors at any moment. White looked down at the exit from his position above. He could see the pirate ships were landing, and there was one on the ground already. His ground gunners fought well, destroying 3 of the incoming ships before they were killed. The enemy was at a slight disadvantage because they were coming through one entrance. However, it was clear that they were well armed and ready. Whatever happened, Sergeant White needed to protect the room where he now stood. From the control room, the space pirates could open up parts of the dome to incoming ships and control all the functions of the entire moon base. If the pirates took this room, all of Armstrong would be theirs. Fortunately, Administrator Rigel understood the gravity of the situation and ordered a full evacuation. All civilian personnel were now moving steadily out of the terminal area and into the tunnels. They would be relatively safe there as long as the electricity and life support systems stayed active. Even though Smith knew it was coming, he still jumped when the doors exploded in flames and fire. Then the firing began. It was going to be a long day, White thought. Chapter 25, In Space Outside the Moon. Fire! Ryder yelled. Looking out the windows, he felt the ship vibrate as 2 missiles launched at the closest pirate ships. The ships were unprepared for the attack as they were focusing on landing on the side of the terminal. He could see through the semi-transparent dome that there was a battle going on inside. He hoped that Smith's men could hold the line and protect the port. Ryder, direct hits! 2 more of the Marauder's ships are destroyed, and Baccaro is crippling a 3rd with his cannon fire. Tracker, how much time is left until we pass by? Ryder asked, knowing their attack would be limited as they raced past the moon. We have another 15 seconds of firing, and then we'll be out of range. We will use the moon's gravity to slow down enough to land, Tracker said, looking carefully at the computer screen. Understood. When they finished firing, Jewel and Beccario took down another ship. This left only the 6 that landed to deal with. Tracker put them into a maneuver to slow them around the moon. Meanwhile, Bites was reviewing the schematics for the moon base. Sir, I have an idea. Tell me what you got. There is an old tunnel on the west side of the base that isn't used much anymore. I think if we landed and went in there, we could use the emergency stairs to reach the control room. We might be able to get there before the Marauders. More than likely, they will beat us, but either way, we may be able to surprise them. Good thinking. Feed the coordinates to Tracker so he can direct Pathfinder there. Got it, Bites, Tracker said. Looking at the data for a few moments, he looked up and explained, Yes, we can do this. I am estimating landing time in 117 minutes since we are moving so fast. All Ryder could think about was that 2 hours was a long time for the battle to continue without their help. Chapter 26, Armstrong Moon Base. Drill Sergeant Void was tough. He made sure that all his recruits were trained and ready to become soldiers, but he never actually fought in a real battle before. He never killed anyone, much less shot at someone, so when the first bullets started striking around him, he hesitated. When he saw his buddy, Drill Sergeant Hounce, go down with a shot to the shoulder, he suddenly found the courage he needed. His shots were accurate as he took down the pirates coming in through the doors. It looked as though they were winning the battle, but the pirates kept coming and coming. It was then that Voight felt the gun nozzle against his head. He stopped firing and turned slightly, realizing it was one of his former recruits. It took him a minute to recognize Recruit Fields. Fields fought them every step of the way and only lasted a brief time in training. Turning slightly enough to talk to Fields, Voight frowned and asked, "Fields, what are you doing?" Fields looked at him with a slight grin and said, "I'm getting even, Drill Sergeant." And with that, he smacked Voight in the back of the head with the butt of the rifle. Voight saw stars for a moment and then fell unconscious. Sergeant White was still in the control room with two other soldiers. They were armed with only side pistols. Looking below, he could see the pirates streaming through the doors and knew it was a bad sign. Even though his team rounded up the list of names Bites gave him, there must have been some that were not on the list. He watched from above as three soldiers who were on his team abandoned their fighting positions and shot or knocked out the rest of the soldiers from behind, without them even knowing what was happening. This is bad, very bad, White thought. He wondered where Ryder was and if he could save the day again, like he had so many times before. The fight continued for another hour. Many pirates died in the initial battle, but when Fields and a few other EOA soldiers helped the attack from behind, the fight ended quickly. As the dust and smoke settled in the terminal, it was then that Commodore Slash Thompson appeared coming through the door. He came through the smoke like some sort of superhero. He was dressed just like a pirate from the old movies, with his top in a bright crimson velvet. His breeches were tied just above his boots, which were shined like mirrors. Around his waist was a black belt with a large belt buckle in solid gold. Hanging from the belt was a scabbard with his sword on his side. And of course, a pirate hat with a red feather was perched on his head. He was tall, intimidating presence as he waved his pistol around at anyone who defied him or wasn't moving fast enough. He issued orders to his pirates and EOA soldiers. The main battle was still to come as they went out the terminal doors and up to the control room. Sergeant White knew it was coming, but he still jumped again when he heard the explosion and the control room doors burst open. He started firing at the door, but it was useless. There were too many of them. In minutes, he knew there was nothing he could do, so he yelled for surrender. The smoke cleared, and 6 pirates pointed automatic rifles at his head. He lay his empty pistol on the table and put his hands on his head. The moon base was now controlled by the Marauders. Chapter 27, Gemini. Cooper's first evasive turn was successful, and the missile exploded off to the right, with enough distance to ensure their safety. He was so happy that Anne trained him at high speeds, as he needed to fly fast now. "What are they using against us?" Cooper asked, trying to get his mind focused on survival. Anne replied, "Those initial 2 were just the basic directional missiles. I think they were hoping to catch us off guard. Nice flying, Cooper. However, I have another missile that is tracking our every move. This one is definitely a guided missile, and it will stay on us until impact." "What does it use? Heat-seeking?" Cooper asked, flying between a few of the derelicts and noticing that the missile was still tracking them perfectly. "Probably. That is generally the case. I am not sure what to do," Anne said. "Do we have any of those heaters here on the ship?" Cooper was referring to portable heaters that were often used when working on ships without environmental controls. "Yes, I have one of them. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Anne said with a slight grin before she had to hang on. The shuttle dove under another ship and shot off at a 90-degree angle. The missile tracked it and continued after him. "Here's the plan," Cooper ordered. "Turn on the heater, and we will jettison it as we pass the next ship. Then I will hide our shuttle behind the ship." Cutting him off, Anne finished his sentence. So that the missile will hit the derelict. Yes, I like it. We will only have one shot at this. Anne got up from her seat, which was difficult with all the extreme flying Cooper was doing. She turned on the heater to full setting and got down on the floor to open the jettison area. The shuttle was equipped with a small trapdoor to jettison trash or other materials when necessary. It was rarely used since the ship would usually clear out foreign materials during the recharging period connected to the airlock. Cooper made another wide turn and the heater lifted off the floor. Anne, using quick reflexes, caught it, but it burned her hand. Ouch! She groaned. You okay back there? Cooper said. I'm close to the point of no return. Let me know when you're ready. Anne opened the trap door, tossed the heater in, and closed it. I am ready, she yelled. She felt the ship bank again and accelerate. The jettison button isn't working, Cooper yelled, pounding on the button on the control panel that should have opened the trap door. Damn, it hasn't been used in a while. Maybe it is broken. I will have to jettison manually. Give me a few seconds. She could hear the terminal ticking off the distance from the missile. They would have only one more shot at this. Now, yelled Cooper. Anne hit the manual button and felt the vibration as the trapdoor opened and launched the heater out. Then she hung on to some handholds on the side of the passenger seats as Cooper took the shuttle straight down and under the German ship ahead of them. He then hit the afterburners, and they ended up directly behind the old ship. Anne wanted to get up, but thought it better to prepare for the detonation. She took one more breath. Then there was a light all around them, and the shuttle shook violently. She was picked up off the floor and was hanging onto her seat. Then she felt herself being thrown against the back wall. Losing her breath for a moment, she opened her eyes and looked up. They were fast approaching Gemini, and she could feel the airlock coming into view. She fell to the floor as the acceleration stopped, and she was weightless again. What happened? She asked as she crawled back into her seat. Cooper looked up from the controls, wiping sweat from his forehead. The missile hit the German ship just as we hoped. The explosion pushed us away from it. Luckily, there was only minor damage to the back of our hull. I thought the explosion would be a great opportunity for us to get out of there and get to the airlock. I am hoping they didn't see us, but I doubt it. We should be hooked to the airlock in 5 minutes. We need to get to bolts! Chapter 28, Blackbeard Armada. Did you get 'em? Blackbeard asked, leaning over Chung's shoulder. Is that explosion them? Chung wasn't sure how to respond. There was an explosion, but it might be the German derelict ship and not the shuttle. Whoever that pilot was, he was amazing. It appeared he launched something out of the shuttle just before he went around the junk ship. In this case, he didn't want to face the ire of the Commodore one more time, so instead he lied and said, Yes, Blackbeard, success! Blackbeard slapped him on the shoulder. Aye, good, proceed. It is time for us to pillage this station. Chapter 29, Armstrong Moon Base. Tracker brought the Pathfinder in low between the craters as it approached the base from the west side. He wanted to bring it in as fast as he could, but he was also hoping no one would see the ship. Tracker, as soon as you land, we will be out, and then I will need you to move the ship. Move it far enough away so you cannot be captured, but close enough to get to us in a seconds. And try to conserve all fuel. We are going to need it for the trip to Gemini. Ryder, good luck and stay safe, Tracker said, looking up for just a moment before getting back on the controls. Ryder slapped him on the back and then headed down the corridor to the airlock. Ryder was already in his spacesuit and just needed to put the helmet on and start the oxygen. He reached the airlock as they heard over the intercom that the landing was happening in 10 seconds. The rest of the team was there and already dressed in their spacesuits and carrying the weapons. Bites was going with them as well to hack into the system and open the outside airlock. The ship lurched a little as they hit the ground, and they felt the full effect of the moon's gravity for the first time. The airlock opened, and the team was out in seconds like they practiced so many times before. Ryder clicked the intercom button twice to let Tracker know to go. The Pathfinder lifted off and disappeared from view behind them. Ryder turned to look ahead and saw the airlock as they all galloped toward its entrance. Bites said, Checking the status of the base, it looks like there were some minor cracks to the dome from the attacks, but the main protection is still in place. I can tell that Sergeant White is no longer in control of the systems. Passwords are changed, but I should be able to hack in soon. The EOA ship bringing the bomb is still about an hour out. Thanks for the update, Bites. Can you get the airlock open? Ryder and the team reached the airlock. Beccario swept away the moon dust from the door and found the keypad. The system was active and blinking red. Beccario looked in the window, but didn't see anyone waiting for them. Bites moved to the front and hooked his device to the keypad. The red light continued to blink for a moment and then turned green. The team went in the airlock, sealed it, and repressurized for the base atmosphere. With the pressure correct, they opened the door and entered the moon base as quietly as possible, retracting their helmets as they went. Ryder checked over the team quickly. Everyone was ready with rifles and extra armament. Through their earpieces, Ryder ordered, "Remember, team, we must get to the leader, Thompson, alive. We will need him to give the EOA ship permission to enter. If they don't hear his voice, they may decide to just ram the base and blow it up that way." He heard words of agreement through the intercom. They were ready. Ryder took the time to survey the small room they were in. It looked like this entrance used to be for the rovers from the outside, but was now abandoned, evident by the thick layer of moon dust on the table in the room. He found the door and ordered, "Beccario, you take the lead." Beccario moved to the door. According to Bites, there was an emergency staircase just outside the room to the left. The team could go up the staircase 4 flights, and then the control room was just down the hallway. They needed to somehow get into the room and have a conversation with Thompson. "This is not the easiest of tasks, but not the hardest we've ever faced," thought Ryder. Beccario motioned for them to follow. He led the way, followed by Ryder, Bites, and then Jewel, bringing up the rear. They went out the door and found the staircase leading up. As Ryder was about to go through the stairway entrance, he heard 2 men approaching. He turned, aimed, and took them down with 2 quick shots. The group continued up the stairs. Slowly they proceeded from flight to flight. Ryder noticed the stairs were pretty dusty. Clearly this wasn't the way people moved through the station anymore. As he walked, he remembered the last time he was in the moon base with Cooper. It is just too bad the time was ruined with the supply ship attack. He was so happy that Cooper accepted him as his grandfather. "Stay safe, Cooper," Ryder thought. "I'm coming soon." Beccario reached the top of the stairs and slowly looked out through the window. He gestured that there was one more pirate in the hallway. Ryder gave a nod, and Beccario went through the door. They all waited for a moment. Then the door opened, and a pirate was being thrown in a pile on the landing. The man was dressed in a traditional pirate's outfit, but with a bullet in his chest, and it was obvious he was no longer a threat. Beccario nodded again, and they all climbed the rest of the stairs and through the door. When Ryder entered the hallway, he was surprised that it was so quiet. It looked like the marauders spread their troops pretty thin. They moved slowly down the hallway. According to the map, this was a short distance, only about 200 meters. Then it would turn left, and the control room would be another 150 meters down the hallway on the right. Beccario reached the end of the hallway and cautiously looked around the corner with one eye. He gestured to indicate there were 2 guards. Ryder moved to the front and gestured to Beccario. On the count of 3, they would both come around the corner. Beccario would take the guard farthest away and Ryder the closer one. Jewel would provide backup if needed, but mostly she would be covering their rear flank in case anyone was alerted to their presence. Ryder held up his fingers. 1, 2, 3. Beccario came around the corner and Ryder went to the far wall. They both fired at the same moment. With the silencers they were using, the guards hitting the floor made most of the noise. They moved together with their rifles at the ready. As they reached closer to the door, another pirate peeked out to see what was going on and caught 2 in the head, one from Ryder and one from Beccario. They looked at each other for a moment, nodding approval, and continued. When they reached the door, Ryder fell behind Beccario. Again, he peered around the corner. It seemed there was an argument going on between Thompson and White. The rest of the pirates seemed to be enjoying the discussion, but then someone noticed the guards were lying in front of the door. Suddenly, all guns turned toward Beccario. Ryder came around the other side and yelled, "Hold your fire! Let's talk!" As Ryder entered, all guns were aimed at him, and Thompson was holding his cutlass sword in front of him. Ryder searched the room. There were 5 pirates with rifles turned on him and Beccario. "I need to defuse this situation quickly," Ryder thought. "Commander / Thompson, I presume." Thompson nodded his head for a moment and said, "And who ye be?" Ryder held back the smile. He actually sounded like a pirate from the movies. This was going to be fun, Ryder thought. "Commodore, my name is Major Ryder with the UGMSC. I am familiar with you, but you have entered a situation that is not of your concern. Commodore, the fate of the entire universe rests in the decisions you make here today. Major, my only concern is getting access to the base, and this is now me base, and I have taken it with me men," Commodore said with the perfect accent of a pirate from so long ago. Ryder thought, I will need to speak in his terms to move this along. Commodore, I understand this, but you have been, how do I say this, horn-wagged. Major, do you mean hornswoggled? By who? Commander Thompson approached Ryder and moved his cutlass down a little, listening intently. Commodore, the EOA is not who you think they are. They have a different plan. They will not allow you to keep this base. They plan on blowing it up, and it will be lost to all of us. Are you saying they are planning to destroy me booty? Commodore, if you are referring to this base as your booty, then the answer is yes. There is an EOA ship inbound right now with a nuclear bomb aboard and an EP device that will render the entire base useless forever. Ryder emphasized this point. As yet, he wasn't sure what he would do with the pirates if they agreed to stand down, but this is what he did for a living, and he would have to find a way. Plus, time was running out for the Gemini. Why should I believe you? Thompson asked. Commodore, if you don't believe me, let me show you the data my pilot has that confirms the signature of the nuclear weapon coming from that ship. I don't mean to pressure you, but we don't have much time, and there is another bomb headed for Gemini as well, and possibly other bases. Ugh! You could fake the data, Thompson said, frowning. Commodore, please, we are both leaders of men in space. We both want to colonize this great world. The universe is our ocean. Why would the EOA, Earth-only agents, emphasizing this point, want us to be able to stay in space? Sir, you have been used, but there is still a chance for you to be a hero. The Commodore stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. Then he heard Sergeant White say, Commodore, the EOA ship has arrived. They are asking for permission to enter the terminal through the dome. We need to make a decision. Slowly, Ryder pulled out his device and showed it to the Commodore. Sir, here are the readings on that ship and the ship headed to Gemini. It is definitely a nuclear bomb, and they are planning on detonating it here. They will destroy everything you have just fought for, along with all your men and families.